Ashamnu, we have been guilty, Beirut. Bagadnu, we have betrayed, Tripoli. Gazalnu, we have stolen, Batroun. I think the fact that we have a built-in collective reflection is something that we should really utilize. I mean, I think that we need to really take that seriously as a community.
Most Jews claim that the high holiday period is about self-reflection and transformation, asking for and giving forgiveness, taking account of our souls, cheshbon nefesh, to be really self-reflective and self-critical about Israel, the state that has been created in our name, and supposedly to support our self-determination and safety.
The idea that we as a community have a lot of self-interrogation and thought and discussion and reflection and moving towards change to do about Israel and about Palestine in this is not even brought up during this time period. I think it's such an amazing opportunity to do that.
I would encourage everybody to take that time, and maybe you're going to find that you don't think anything different, but then maybe that's something to reflect on too. I mean, you should always be suspicious when you don't find your opinions changing or your thoughts changing. So, mine have, certainly. So,
intense conversations, and usually burst into tears, and then run away and refuse to engage with it.
When I went there when I was 17, I went on a USY Israel-Poland pilgrimage trip. So you go to Poland for a week first, and you experience all of the concentration camps, and then you go to Israel for 5 weeks. And it was, on that trip, nobody says to you, by the way, there's a whole Palestinian narrative. Nobody even mentions to you that there's Palestinian neighborhoods, that these people exist. It's not a part of what you're being taught. It's not a part of what you're learning. It's not a part of your experience or your journey. And I think a lot of what I was getting when I was 17 was coming from a place of fear. Like a place of actual fear that potentially our people won't exist. And if you have people that you lost in the Holocaust, that's where that fear comes from. Or if you have people that were lost in the pogroms, that's where that fear comes from. But it's not the way that I want to live. I want to live coming from a place of hope and coming from a place of real understanding.
May 14th, 1948. The Declaration of the Jewish State of Israel. I have strong and divided feelings about this important news. A dream 2,000 years old, the fulfillment of the diasporan hope. I've said too often, if I forget thee, O Jerusalem, to feel unaffected. But it is not Zionism that moves me. Zionism is not the establishment of the true Zion. The true Zion reconciles Jew, Arab, and Christian. The true Zion can never be nationalistic. Nationalism always courts bloodshed and competition and the horror of war. Holy war. How can one hate the Arabs for defending the land they have lived in while we Jews were dispersed over the whole earth? Always there have been people like me who opposed war in all of its forms, and there were people, Jews in 48 and in 17 and in every critical moment in our Zionist history that have said, wait, stop, I don't think this is a good idea.
There's so much I have to relearn about the state of Israel and about Zionism that I'm constantly relearning, and that has really only happened to me in the course of the last few months. Reading 2 of Edward Said's books this summer and watching Israel bomb Lebanon just flipped my whole shit about Israel.
How can killing civilians and destroying infrastructure and people's livelihoods be a good thing for anyone? How can that create any kind of peace or quote-unquote security? One of the reasons that I remain connected to Judaism and Jewish culture is because I think there's a lot of rich, interesting history and texts and sources that you can use to structure those conversations and to inform those conversations that are, and I mean, I was talking more about religious texts, but I think there's also a lot of secular stuff, there's a lot of historical stuff. And to really take advantage of that, to engage with the hard questions, and they are hard questions, and I would not want to go and talk to Jews and say that they were, oh, this is easy, oh, this is facile. It really wasn't easy for me, but I really think it's something that we have to do.
My relationship to Israel, it's a cousin I don't speak to. And even though we don't speak, I must speak about her. That she's not me. And that I have the responsibility to apologize for everything. Because I know she never will. Because I've known racism more than I've known Judaism, known oppression more than I felt part of the chosen race. And maybe that's why we don't speak anymore. Because I'm not pure or complacent. I say out loud that I don't agree with what she's doing. Because when people meet me and find out about my heritage, they assume I'm with her. My Jewish faith is in people who see themselves as citizens of the world, that we're everywhere, people who love and respect all people. So it's okay that me and my cousin don't speak, because there are so many other Jews out there, and we have enough to do. Does our existence as Jews have to rely upon oppressing other people?
Yeah, the fact of occupation, that daily fact, seems to call up in me, I don't know, when I try to square occupation with humanism, with a value of human life that is Judaism to me, it doesn't work. And so I'd humbly ask other Jews to try to square themselves with the material facts of what life is like for someone in Hebron, for someone in Gaza City on the daily. And I don't see how that could lead to anything else but a deep criticism of the state of Israel and the Israeli Defense Forces.
My parents never taught me to extend my concept of social justice to include Palestinians. My parents, my schools, my newspapers never encouraged me to hold Israel accountable for its acts of aggression. And now I am angry. You talk about self-hatred? I'll tell you about self-hatred. I'll tell you a story of Arab Jews coerced into changing their names and dropping their native tongues upon entry into this new country, claiming to embrace all of our brothers and sisters, and then exploited in the fields, settled in border towns, brown buffer zones for Jews with white skin afraid to face the dangers of their own colonial project.
What the state of Israel is doing to Palestinians. Completely unjust. It's obvious. Anybody who goes there, if you go there, and you set foot on the West Bank, I defy anybody to walk away and say that this is just.
My hope is that somehow, somewhere, there will be created a space in which Israelis can sit around the table with people who are not Jewish, but really sit around the table.
Recently, actually 3 months ago, I went to Auschwitz. I had wanted to go to Auschwitz for years. I suppose you can walk out of Auschwitz and say, nobody's ever doing that to us again. We will kill everybody in sight before this ever happens again. Okay? Or you can walk out and say, we are the people who know what happened. We, above all, know what it feels like. And that we, above all, have an obligation to fight against it. So you can go one way or the other. And if you go the first way, you're bombing the Beirut airport 3 hours after a cell of soldiers are kidnapped. And if you only care about yourself, and the entire Jewish tradition, as my understanding, is that you cannot just care for yourself. You can't. That it is your obligation, as the religious people would say, as a believer, and the unreligious would say, as a human being. As a human being, there is a social pact that you cannot stand by and watch this without doing something about it.
Ose shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom